This week we are reading in the book of Numbers, Parshat Chukat, Numbers 19, introducing the topic of the Red Heifer, the precept of Para Aduma, considered by our sages the greatest mystery in the Torah. The whole concept of how to bring about purification, so important for Holy Temple studies, this mysterious process by which the impure is rendered pure, while paradoxically those who were pure, facilitating the process, become impure. And this whole paradox is considered to be the greatest mystery in the Torah. King Solomon, the wisest of all men, dedicated an entire verse to this concept in Ecclesiastes, where he writes, "I thought I would become wise, but I see that it is far from me." However, we do have a tradition that Moses, in fact, the humblest of all men, did perceive the secret of this mysterious concept, the Para Aduma, the Red Heifer, and how it works, how it brings about purity for the people of Israel. Now, one of the greatest mysteries of the Torah, when we study, is the concept that the incidents that are recorded in the Torah are not necessarily appearing in chronological order. They may be, and perhaps the majority of that which is recorded in the Torah does appear in chronological order, but at the same time there is an idea that this is not necessarily so. Case in point, here in Numbers 19 we are introduced to this elusive concept of the Red Heifer. However, we are taught that this commandment was actually given to the congregation of Israel while they were just exited Egypt back in Exodus 15 at the place called Marah. There, when we read about the incident of the water at Marah, that is actually when this precept was presented to Israel. And if so, we have the question, why, in fact, does it appear here in the book of Numbers? And some of our sages point out a very beautiful idea. This portion, the portion of Korach, appears directly after this portion, the portion of Chukat, introducing to us the concept of the Red Heifer, appears exactly after the portion of Korach, the story of the rebellion against the authority of Moses. And what was really that all about? What was the whole story of that rebellion? Well, we know that Korach was a person who was very wise, but who was self-aggrandizing, who looked at his own life in terms of one big career move. He was filled with jealousy for the authority of Moses. And basically he looked at Moses and he saw one person who was so many different things at once. And he said, "You're so full of contradiction." He said to Moses, "How could you be wearing so many hats at once? How could you be the president and the vice president? How could you be the leader and the prophet? How could you be all of these things at once?" And of course, the answer is that Moses was successful in synthesizing all of these tasks because it meant absolutely nothing to him, because his entire life was one of living for the Klal Yisrael, for the congregation of Israel. When God recorded in the Torah as witness, Moses was the humblest man on the face of the earth, and Moses himself recorded those words. It made absolutely no difference to him. After he wrote it, he felt the same way as before he wrote it, because it was true. And he thought nothing of himself. In fact, when God said, "I'm going to wipe out this people and start all over with you," Moses said, "If you want to do that, wipe me out from your book. I am nothing. I cannot live without them." Such was the level of his dedication to his people. And Korach was not on that page at all. Korach thought only of himself. So, chronologically, this portion should really be back in Exodus 15. But on one level of interpretation, this is really a very beautiful thought. Why does it appear here? Because this is, in a sense, God's answer to Korach. Korach, you don't understand? You don't understand how Moses could be all of these things at once? Well, this is the answer. Because he understands, he's the only man who understands the secret of this concept, the Red Heifer. Because in order to understand the secret of purity, what is the secret of purity? In order to understand how this comes about, you cannot have any sense of self. You have to be divested completely of ego. You have to be that paragon of humility. And only Moses was on that level. So Korach, God says to him, here's your answer to what you didn't understand. And this is why Moses is who he is, and you are who you are, because Moses thinks nothing of himself, and you think only of yourself.